be it access to credit for the MSMEs. Ladies and gentlemen, today is the second day and we are again live with a post-budget coverage. And in the first session, we're joined by eminent economists and some people who have been in the system and understand the root of the story. I'm joined by Ms. Dakshita Das, who's a former civil servant, retired of course, additional member, Ministry of Railways, ex-managing director and CEO of NHB, Ministry of Finance. I'm joined by Mr. SRavi, who's the former chairman of the Bombay Stock Exchange and the founder and managing partner of Ravi, Rajan and Company. I'm also joined by Mr. Prabal Basu. You must have read many of his articles in the Business World magazine. He's a non-executive director and advisor to chairman of corporate boards. I'm joined by Vikram Limsay, who's the CEO of Helicon Consulting. And I'm joined by Srinath, who is an independent markets commentator. Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard from all these panelists in the past across various platforms, and they're regular contributors to our magazine. So let me open the stage, and I'll start with you, Dakshita ji. How did the budget pan out for you? What were your major disappointments? What were some things which you see happening in the right direction? I mean, sum up your budget analysis.
At a very high level, Abhinav, I think this budget is credible, it is trustworthy, and it's consistent.
Okay.
I think these are the basic takeaways which go a long way in building confidence with all those who interact with the Indian economy. As far as this particular budget is concerned, of course, I think the finance minister has banked heavily on John Keynes, Maynard Keynes, to prepare India's long-term 25-year blueprint to essentially fundamentally restructure the economy. Yeah. In many ways. There are obviously some issues which still need to be addressed, and we'll talk about that. But I think she's made an excellent beginning. And I think that to me is the biggest takeaway of this budget, which is growth-oriented, it's capex-driven, does not raise taxes, it has remained on the fiscal glide path while signaling a non-adversarial tax regime going forward. Translate. I think all of this together portends very well for the direction in which the economy is being taken.
My view is it's a great budget, considering the fact that the global order is changing, climate change is there, ESG is there, the energy, we are moving from the conventional energy to the non-conventional energy, and so and EV vehicles to everything, which all requires a lot of capex. So I think we have moved away from a very, very traditional budget. Last year there was some trend on that, and this year it has been exhibited that we are moving towards a growth-oriented budget, focusing on infrastructure, rural infrastructure, focusing on the new part of the economy, which is the ESG and climate change, etc. So okay. We are, and where there will be a lot of capex required, and I think that is the transformation that I see in this budget. A lot of things have got addressed, including the digital world, and also there was a little bit of issues around cryptocurrency. I think very clearly articulated there between digital currency and cryptocurrency, the difference between the two. So I think a lot of good steps have been taken in this budget. It may not, on the other side, it may not look like a very instantaneous benefiting budget, but it's a long-term budget. Means it's going to be the foundation stone for many things to happen.
Long-term budget. And I forgot to say the tagline which was given to me by Prabal Da in his Business World article later. Lage raho Nirmala Behan. So I'll take that and move forward. Dakshita ji, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. So Abhinav, I'll enter with the tremendous admiration for the continuity this budget provides with the previous budget. Somehow whenever we are analyzing a particular year's budget, we only look at it in the context of that year. But if we look at it, this is a continuity. Last year, in fact, since 2014, there has been a certain plan on which budgets have been operating. Financial inclusion was one. Initially, a lot of impetus was given for housing, for water, for poverty-related schemes. But what last 2 years has happened is that we are looking at a very aggressive push towards capex, and linked with that is the IT revolution. So in a sense, it's a very futuristic budget because it lays the yardstick for the groundwork for the future. It on the supply side, it does great work, and particularly the scope it gives to the MSMEs and the continuity it provides over last year. See, again, we are looking at a continuity in this budget. So all in all, I'm happy. Unfortunately, most budget debates tend to veer towards personal tax, as you've mentioned yourself. But I think that all in all, it's a very, very comfortable space that we are in right now.
Your opening remarks about the budget, your disappointments, your plus points, the good, the bad, and the ugly of this budget, according to you.
So I don't think there's anything bad or ugly about it. I was watching the budget and I thought, the FM kind of started out with a trot, then it developed into a canter, and as we kind of analyze it later on, it looks like a gallop. See, the issue is like this: the budget is not an independent document on its own, right? It's a financial statement which reflects the policy of the government, and this government has committed itself to a kind of a balanced agenda of a welfare economics and welfare state, and also at the same time promoting and putting growth on the trajectory, which we've kind of missed over the past couple of years. And then you see, unfortunately, the last 2 years, the way it was, and probably in these two also, it has a little bit of a bias towards the growth objective and less on the welfare. And that's how the makeup of this government is. And in the last 2 years, because of unforeseen circumstances, perhaps, and global COVID and everything, I think they were kind of a little stunted. They had to kind of pull back on their growth agenda and go whole hog into the welfare agenda. And what they essentially did, the economic advisor calls it the barbell kind of a action, but I feel what essentially it meant is for the absolute underprivileged class, it kind of gave a little money in their pocket. To the middle of the economy, which is traders and MSMEs, it gave a little bit of a relief in terms of cash flow, and the bigger guys were kind of left to themselves to fend for themselves. And now I think they're back on track after these 2 years, and this is a phenomenal statement of intent, and it's a very comprehensive I would say statement of intent. It looks like 7.5 lakh crores on capex and about 39 or 40 lakh crores on expenses, kind of to churn an economy of around 250 lakh crores. Actually, that 7.5 lakh figure is a little more. If you look at the grants given in aid to the states and even the PSU investments, you put it all together, it's a phenomenal 10 lakh crore or 11 lakh crores. It's a phenomenal growth driver in that sense. So, in my view, it's a balanced budget on 3 counts. I mean, it's looking at the welfare state, it's looking at the growth state, and it's also looking at the futuristic intent of the government for the next 25 years. So in that sense, it's putting it in the right trajectory. It's got inclusion, it's got the digital awareness that it wants to build in, it's want to put the fundamental infrastructure in place. I think everything is going right, and I just hope they spend this money right now. One is, the deficit financing of 17 odd lakh crores. Out of that 17 odd lakh crores, almost 9 lakh crores is coming out of interest payments. So that leaves another 7 or 8 lakh crores. I hope they get that. I hope they are able to spend that money. The whole idea is to spend that money, and I'm quite certain this government will spend. And if it spends, it's kind of, to me, I think it's going to unleash a phenomenal aggression going forward for the next 3 to 4 years, and on which then the inertia will kind of set in, and it'll take it on its own steam for the next 10 or 15. That's my view.
Inertia will be back. Srini, I woke up in the morning और दैनिक जागरण की headline थी दूरदर्शी budget. With your background in picture, think outside the box. Your opening remarks for the budget.
See, I want to draw focus to what I wrote for Business World last week as what's my guesstimate of sorts. And I think I wrote the phrase called, I'm looking forward for a capitalist budget with impact-led welfareism. And I think this budget in that sense ticks the box, because I'd also spoken about spends, front-loaded investments, capex on social infrastructure, civic infrastructure, youth. I mean, I'm very glad that the finance minister used the word called demographic dividend, because if you don't leverage that, and which is what we have done, demographic leverage. To me, what started or what was the expectation, especially the media frenzy of what generally is the Government of India's statement of accounts. But yesterday, I think we went way beyond that. What was presented was a 25-year vision document. It's like, if you imagine the corporate India, you're expecting the annual budgets, business plan, and you're actually having a document saying the next 25 years, this will be our culture, values, mission statement broken down. It ticks the box for me because the pillars of inclusion, for a fact, I'm very, very respectful and mindful. Pillars of inclusion without retorting to the general Garibi word. I'm so glad to hear it, that it is about inclusion. It is not about Garibi. Let's not celebrate poverty anymore. Let's bring more people out of it. I think that ticks the box. Youth, I think we have recognized demographic dividend and more about also addressing concerns. If we don't find them avenues of employability, either entrepreneurship or jobs, at some point, there will be a lot of social and political pressure. I think we've also addressed the, concept of digital, be it the digital banks, the post office coming on, core banking. I mean, these are big, big moves. And when you wonder, saying, why the hell did we not think of these, path-breaking ideas? They've been all around. I think the pillars of inclusion, youth, digital, I think it's about self-reliance and self-sufficiency. I mean, if you look at the fine print about food security, I mean, it is all, and about agriculture, all the announcements around agriculture, it's about being self-reliant and self-sufficient. We don't need to be a poor state to get there. You can be a powerful state and you grow. So if I were to talk about, let's say, A to couple of alphabets, to me, Atmanirbhar Bharat was very evident. Building India, very, very evident with this focus. Connecting India, amount of spends on infrastructure, networking, trains, cargos, logistics. Digital India, again, very clear. I think somewhere without saying so, we have mentioned equality India. And more importantly, we'll achieve all this ABCDE through fiscal India. I mean, to me, it is a budget that's satisfying. But as I said, the devil is always in the details and the execution. It's great to have fantastic presentation. We can all cheer till cows come home. But how do we execute? For example, just to pick a point on what Vikram said, the capex spends, it is not as easy as we think it is. We have not spent all the capex that we budgeted last year. So there is, even in spending, it's not only in earning, even in spending, we seems to have fallen short, which we'll have to pick up steam on. And one fine print I think I would want to probably debate as we go along is, in the capex targets, we've included a lot of chunk of that capex target is about interest cost, NHAI debt, interest-free loans given to the state. If you actually remove them, it's over 1 lakh crore. Then the capex falls that much. But of course, considering even if you remove them, it's still a considerably high capex spends.
Okay,
but
so that forms a considerable part of it. Let me now shift the focus to the backbone of the economy, the MSMEs and startups. I mean, most of our panelists are experts in that area. 6,000 crore program to rate MSMEs, which needs to be rolled out in the next 5